Hello people, this is Code Grind, and in today's video we'll be continuing our two video series of creating an audio player using CSS3 and JavaScript. So in the last video we created this basic audio player in where we only have the play pause functionality, but in this video we'll be adding some animations to it. Like this one, we'll be creating a slider where we can show how much long the song is and for how much time it has been played for, along with this play pause functionality, and this is an animated slider. So let me show you to you what we'll be creating today. So this is how it works. Now let's get straight into it. So here is our code from the previous video. Now you should watch the first video of this series before you get into watching the second one, because you won't understand anything if you haven't watched the previous video. So in this video we're gonna add the slider. So in here, after the status button, which is the play pause button, we'll have a div with the class of slider like this, and then inside here we'll have our toggle. So this is basically the circles button which will move along the slider, and then we'll have a div with the class of initial. This will hold the initial time, so by default it will be 0 minutes 0 seconds, and then at last we'll have a div with the class final. This will hold the final time, which that means the length of the song. Let's hit save. Now we don't see anything except this initial because this is the only text we have provided. Now let's get into styling this slider. So for the slider we have got here, we'll select the slider by .car.slider, and then we'll give it a position of relative because we'll be positioning the toggle button in reference to this slider. We'll give it a height of 5 pixels and a width of 70%. Yeah, so this is it for the width, and now we'll give it a background color of white. You can use any color which you want. So we have got the slider over here, and now we'll give it a border radius because we want to make it a bit curvy at the end. So now it has some curves, and then we'll give it a margin top of 2em. So this is it for the slider. Now let's design our toggle switch. So we'll select this dot slider, then dot toggle, and then we will give it a position of absolute because we'll be positioning it in reference to the slider, a height of 1em, a width of 1em, and then a border radius of 50% because it should be round, and then we'll give it a background color of dark can. You can use any color again, then a top of 0. Yeah, then we want it exactly to the left, so for that I will give it a right of 100%. Yeah, this is it, and then a top of 0, but now it is outside this slider and a bit below. We want it exactly at the it should start from the leftmost point and it should be placed vertically center to the slider. So for that we'll give it a transform translate left of 100%, 100% in the x-axis. That means it will move this entire toggle switch towards the right. That means it will start from the leftmost. I suggest you should learn this transform translate property because it will be very helpful for you. So now this is placed exactly at the vertical center and the leftmost part of the slider. Now we'll select our final and initial values and give them position of absolute as well, and then we'll give it a font size. We'll just reduce its font size to 0.8em, and then give it them a top of 1em. So here is our initial value, and now we'll select the slider dot initial and give it a left of 0 because we want it to the exact left, and then we'll select our slider dot final and give it a right of 0 because we want it on the right side. So this is it for the designing of the slider. Now let's get into the JavaScript part. So the JavaScript part, first we'll select all these three things which we have added. The toggle, first of all, let's give it to the second audio as well. So we'll copy it from here and paste it in here. So since there are multiple of them, we will use the document.querySelector all, document.querySelector all, and with the class toggle. Oh, and then we'll select all our initial values by initials, document.querySelector all again, dot initial, and then we'll just select this final. So we have selected all our constants here. So inside this else, so here we have got this audio index.play. That means this is the part where the audio is played. So in here what we'll do is we'll first get the duration, the complete duration of the song in the const duration. So the property for that is audios, then sorry, we want it in integer, so we'll first use the parse int function. Now this, inside this, whatever we write, it will just convert it to integer. Like if I have 3.5, then if I console.log this duration, you will see that this will the parse int function will convert this 3.5 into an integer value. That's it, safe. Inside here, if I go to the inspect element and in the console, we don't get anything. Why is that? Oh, first we need to click on this play. So here we get this 3. As you can see, this is because the 3.5 is converted to an integer value because of the parse int function. So this is what the parse int function does. Now let's close it. Where is the closer? So in here, inside the parse int function, we will get the duration, the complete length of this audio. Audios index dot duration. This is the property which we'll be using. And now whenever this play button is clicked on, we want the toggle switch to slide towards the right for this amount of time. If the audio is of 200 seconds, then it should move towards the right for 200 seconds. So for that, we'll go into the CSS part. It will be much clearer when I write the code. We'll select the keyframes. We will define an animation right here. So in this keyframe slide, what we will do is from right 100%, which is the by default value. Here we have got the toggle switch, we have given it a right of 100%. So from that to right of 0. Now if I just give it a right of 0, so let us just give it over here. If I give it a right of 0, then it will exceed from the slider, it will go beyond the slider. So what we also need to give is, now let's remove it from here. So for preventing it from going beyond the slider, we also need to give it a transform translate of 0, -5 pixels. Let's hit save. Now this is the animation, we have defined it, and we will provide this animation to the toggle switch through JavaScript. So whenever this play button is clicked on, first we'll get the duration, and then we will select the toggle button of that audio slider, and we will give it an animation of, the name of the animation which we have designed is slide, and we will run it for the duration. That means whatever the number of seconds here we have got from, and then we will add an s for seconds, and this will be linear. So we add this animation. Now when I click on play, this starts moving. So the animation which we have provided is working fine. Now what we need to do is toggles index. When the animation has ended, we need to remove that animation. So when the animation has ended, this will go to this part again, and when we click on it again, this is getting complicated. Let's actually, first I will write the code, then I will tell you what I'm doing. Add event listener. So there is an event animation end. So when the animation ends, we will just go here and we will remove the property of animation. So for that, we will select toggles index dot remove property, no sorry, dot style dot remove property animation. So this will remove this animation. Now why did we do this? This is because when this animation has taken place, then if we click on the play button again to again play the song, then this animation won't restart because it has been played once, so it won't restart again on clicking. So therefore we need to remove this animation every time the animation has completed, and then we will add it again. So this is the reason why we are removing this. You can try this by not removing the animation, and you will understand what is the difference. Now let's hit play. So here the animation starts playing, but when I click pause, the animation is still working. So to prevent that from happening, what we need to do is, inside this pause, that means inside this if block, what we need to do is, here whenever the pause button is clicked on, we need to select the toggles and we need to pause this animation. So for that we have got another property, that is animation play state, and we will switch it to paused whenever the pause button is clicked on. Let's hit save, and now when I click on play, this starts moving. When I click on pause, this stops moving. When I click on it again. So this is how you can create this animation for the toggle switch. Now we need to provide it with a final, that means this the duration of the audio. So for that, outside this buttons dot for each loop, that means over here we will run a function, that is not a function, for each loop for all the audios. We will select every audio, then we will select their index as well, and in here what we will do is const duration. We will first select const duration, again parse int, this will be audio dot duration. So we will get the duration of every audio, and we will first get the mins, that means the minutes, by dividing the duration by 60. So because the duration will be in seconds, and then we will need to convert it to parse int, that means we will need to convert it to integer, and then we'll get the seconds by converting the duration mod 60. So what this mod 60 does, it gives us the remainder. Like if I have 5 mod 2, so then it will divide 5 by 2 and then return the remainder. So 5 divided by 2 is 4, the remainder is 1, so 5 mod 2 will give us 1. So if we have the total number of seconds, then we can modulus this by 60 and get the total seconds. So here we will select the finals index, that means whichever audio is selected in the for each loop, we will get the final of that particular audio, and we will change its inner text to mins, then we'll add a colon, and then we'll add the seconds. Let's hit save. So here we have got this. Sometimes we get this nan. So what we need to do is to prevent this nan, here inside the audio we need to give it a preload of metadata. So this is one of the HTML attributes. You don't need to know much about it, just provide it to your audio. So we give it a preload of metadata, and now before selecting all of this, we need to run a function that is audio dot on loaded meta. So whenever the audio is loaded completely, then only this inside code will work. So on loaded metadata, we will run a function, and inside this function we will have everything. Let's hit save, and here we have got all the final times of both the audios. Now we need to increase this initial audio as the song starts playing, because we want the time here for how much long the song has been played for. So for that, inside the play, what we'll do is we will run a set interval function because it should call itself after every particular second. Now why we wanted to call it after every second is because we want to change the song, like for 1 second if it has been played, then it should show 0:1, then 0:2, 0:3. So it should be incremented after every second. So we define a set interval function which calls itself after every second. So now in this set interval function we will have a current time. This is a constant, and inside it we'll have our audios index dot current time. So this will return the time for how much long the song has been played for in seconds. Now in here, if current time is equal to 0, that means if the song has not been played yet, then the initials of index dot inner text, not inner HTML, inner text should be 0:0, so that if the song has not been played yet, then the inner text should be 0, else the initials index dot inner text, this should be parsed in. Now as you might remember, we just divided it by 60 to get the minutes and modulus it by 60 to get the seconds. So in here we can get the current time divided by 60. This will give us the minutes plus a colon and then percent current time modulus of 60. If you don't convert it to integer, then you will get decimal values, which will not look good in your website. Well, let's hit save. We have got the final time, we have got the slider, we have got the initial time. Now if I click on play, we should see the animation working and the initial time getting incremented after every second, because we have set the interval function to be run after every second. Let's hit play. So as you can see, the timer is working properly. It is working fine. So this is how you can create an audio player using CSS3 and JavaScript. If you didn't understand any part of the video, if you want your doubts to be cleared, then drop a comments down below. I will definitely clear every one of your queries. And if you like the video, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more such amazing tutorials on CSS and JavaScript. And thank you for watching.